Reactive training systems.
So I got a question recently about emerging strategies and whether I thought, in light of my more recent conversations with Greg and Bryce and Eric, if I thought that there was anything that could be done to improve emerging strategies as a concept. And I think that there is. I think that there's always space for improvement. Um, One of the areas that I'm thinking about a lot more now is has to do with exposures. So there's this concept in emerging strategies that the number of exposures drives the time to peak, and I think that that's mostly true. Like I think that there's something to that. If you give somebody a program where the workloads are normal or equal rather, uh, but one has a short microcycle and the other has a long microcycle, then it seems that the time to a peak condition is mostly, or that it has a lot to do with the number of exposures, that you're going to get a faster peak if you have a shorter microcycle, even if the volume is the same across a given time period. So exposures seems to be real. It seems to be important. But there's some other stuff as well. And the more I think about it, the more I think fatigue plays a role here. And to some extent, that's obvious. If you did a microcycle that had a lot more work in it than you were able to recover from, it won't take very long and you'll see a decrease in performance. And for all intents and purposes, that looks a lot like a peak condition. So fatigue is got something to do with it. Um, I think that we're still looking for kind of the unified theory of strength training. The foundational principles that hold true no matter what volume, no matter what intensity. I think we're still looking for those. I think the concept of exposures is useful, but as time goes on, I definitely think that it's interacting with the workload, with the level of fatigue. And I can't quite, I suppose that that's not a revelation for how emerging strategies could be improved, at least not right now. It's not here, do this thing differently. It's something that I'm keeping an eye on and spending some time thinking about. The other area for improvement is something that I can't remember if it was which of the guys mentioned it during my discussion with them after the EPC last summer, but someone mentioned that I could take a similar approach to tapering. So while the development cycles, we look at those with an eye to finding what elicits the best athlete response and which exercise intensity, frequency, template combination gets you the best response. You can take a similar approach with a taper. Zero in on the tapering strategy that works best for the individual rather than just kind of taking more of a one-size-fits-all approach. And I definitely think that that's something that you could do. It would take a little bit longer because I don't think you really want your lifters doing true hard competition max outs, at the end of every development cycle. So it's going to take a little bit longer to zero in on the thing that's going to work for you. But there's also fewer rational combinations, I think. So that's something that I've been experimenting with a bit more, being more willing to taper athletes rather than just train through, especially if they show a positive inclination toward it, especially if they've had positive experiences in the past. So those are really the two main areas that I'm thinking of right now. Um, yeah, so there's always work to be done. Any idea uh, can always use improvement, basically. But I think it's good that that requires more and more thought as time goes on.
Reactive training systems.